The unexpected call. A story of hurt. It was a quiet evening, and I was sitting comfortably in my living room, sipping a hot cup of tea. The soft glow of my phone illuminated the room as I lazily scrolled through social media. The peaceful silence of the evening was broken suddenly when my phone buzzed. It was an unexpected call. It was from my brother. Surprised, I picked up the phone, expecting our usual light-hearted conversation, filled with jokes and stories from our daily lives. But as soon as I said, "Hello," the tone on the other end of the line shocked me. My brother's voice thundered through the speaker, sharp and full of anger. "Why don't you ever listen? You're so..." He then said something that struck me hard. It was an abusive word, one I had never heard from him before. I froze. My heart pounded in my chest. I couldn't find the words to respond. What was happening? Why was he so upset? What did I do to deserve this? The words echoed in my mind as I struggled to process the sudden wave of hurt, confusion and hurt. My brother and I had always shared a special bond. We grew up together, laughing, sharing stories, and comforting each other through difficult times. We were close, so hearing those words felt like a sharp slap. The warmth of our relationship seemed to disappear in that one moment, replaced by a coldness I had never known. I wanted to ask him what was wrong. Why was he angry? But before I could say anything, he hung up abruptly. I stared at the phone in my hand, feeling a mix of confusion and hurt. What had gone wrong? Was it something I said earlier that upset him? Did I unknowingly say or do something that triggered this outburst? The silence that followed was deafening. I sat there, replaying the conversation in my head, trying to make sense of it all, trying to understand. For a while, I felt lost. My brother had never spoken to me like this before. We had been through so much together, and yet this sudden anger was so unlike him. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I knew this wasn't his true self. There had to be something more to this. I decided to give him some time to cool off. After all, everyone has their bad days, right? Maybe he was going through something difficult and didn't know how to express it. Maybe he needed help, but he didn't know how to ask for it. I kept telling myself that he wasn't angry with me. He was just angry about something else. Hours passed, and I couldn't shake the feeling of hurt, but I also couldn't stop thinking about him. What if he was in trouble? What if he was struggling with something that made him lash out? I knew I had to reach out to him. Reaching out. The next morning, I called him back. This time, I felt a little nervous. What would he say? Would he still be angry? The phone rang for a moment before he answered. His voice was tired and soft, not the usual confident tone I was used to hearing. I could tell from his voice that he regretted what had happened. "I'm sorry," he said before I could even bring it up. "I didn't mean to speak to you like that. I was just so frustrated and overwhelmed." I took a deep breath and said calmly, "I was hurt by what you said. But I know you didn't mean it. I understand. What's going on?" "What happened?" He paused for a moment, and I could sense the hesitation in his voice. But eventually, he opened up. He shared how he had been dealing with a difficult situation at work for the past few days. A misunderstanding with one of his colleagues had left him stressed and emotionally drained. He felt trapped and frustrated, and when he called me, he was already at his breaking point. Without thinking, he had lashed out at me, someone he knew would understand him. It wasn't about me, but rather about everything he had been holding in. Forgiveness and moving forward. I listened quietly as he poured out his feelings. I could feel his regret in every word. When he finished, I said softly, "You know, I'm always here for you. You don't have to go through everything alone, but please, don't speak to me like that again. It hurts." There was a long pause on the line before he responded. His voice filled with sincerity. "I won't. I promise. I'm sorry, and thank you for understanding. You don't know how much that means to me." We ended the conversation on a positive note, with both of us feeling lighter. It wasn't an easy conversation, but it was necessary. That moment of understanding and forgiveness brought us closer than we had been in a long time. It reminded me that sometimes, people say hurtful things not because they want to hurt us, but because they are struggling with their own emotions. Moral of the story: words can hurt, but understanding can heal. Sometimes, the people who lash out the most are the ones who need help the most. Always try to understand the situation before judging someone's actions. Open and honest communication is the key to healing hurt and strengthening relationships, even after difficult moments. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more real-life stories, English learning tips, and life lessons.